Hello, and welcome back to Practice Intimacy. This is the place to be to learn how to have the love life, the sex life, the relationships that you've always wanted. I'm Jami Lynn, and today what we're going to be talking about is that feeling people have sometimes that says, I'm not good enough, or I'm not enough in some way. Before we get started, remember to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. I am putting out content about love and sex pretty much every single week. So if you're wanting to learn more, then you can stay up to date by subscribing. So let's talk about this idea of I'm not enough. I would honestly say this is the number one thing I see people come in with where they're struggling with relationship. A belief that somehow I'm not good enough for this person that I want to be close to, or they're judging me to be bad in some way. And really at the root of this is about shame, which is not surprising because we live in a culture that is steeped with shame. There are constant messages coming in towards us saying that we're doing something wrong, we're bad in some way, and it's really part of our earliest learning. So what I want to talk about today is how that affects your relationships, and then some of the ways you can begin to undo this belief system. And we'll start with why this even matters. So to begin with, it's just a painful thought. Anytime you experience yourself as not enough, it feels deeply painful. There's a huge amount of grief in that. Like I said, there's shame, which if you listen to Brene Brown at all, then you know how incredibly visceral the shame response is. It's like this whoosh of heat that goes throughout the entire body, and there's a feeling of just wanting to like pull in and collapse. And it really is just an intense emotional and physical experience of feeling disconnected. We are social creatures. We want to be connected to others. We want to feel as though we belong. And that belief of I am not enough will immediately send your nervous system into a space of I no longer belong. I don't belong because I will never be enough to belong. As I said before, this is a cultural message. Almost all of us have this in some form or fashion, but there are people who tend to have it more than others. Some people, they don't experience this feeling of I'm not enough as often as others might. And so for you, just let yourself be curious. In what ways does this particular belief show up for you? Do you have it about the way you look? Do you have it about your abilities at work, at lovemaking, at being in a relationship? Do you have feelings of not enoughness in your family or as an artist, as a performer? Whatever the case may be, just look for the places where you're aware of this in your life. And what I'm going to focus on is relationally where this shows up. So here's the reality of telling yourself, or it's partly telling yourself, but it's really more of a belief system. There is an old neural network that learned a particular story about you, and it continues to believe that story. And so when that thought of I am not enough comes up, what usually happens is we tend to find people in relationship who will reflect that back at us because it feels familiar, because it is confirming of the old belief, and because our system gravitates towards what we believe to be true, what in our system we know to be right, even if it's not actually true. So let's talk about how this actually shows up. In relationship, it could look a whole bunch of different ways. You might believe in some form or fashion, I am not enough. And yet you have a partner who's incredibly loving and you're really close and connected to them. And this belief of I'm not enough only shows up in one place. With my clients in my world, because I'm a sex therapist, that usually is around sex. So you might have a wonderful relationship with your partner. You love them, you feel close to them. And yet there's this part of you that believes I am not enough. And the story around that might be, I am not enough sexually for my partner. I'll never be enough sexually for them. And then what ends up happening is this leads to a certain type of behavior where I'm telling myself I'm not enough. And so then it brings me down and I have less confidence. I don't feel confident as though I am enough. And then that shows up in my relationship, my lack of confidence in my sexuality, in being sexual with my partner, in initiating. And so then my partner feels that, and they might actually pick up on that and reflect back to me that I am not enough. So from their space, it might sound like, I wish we had more sex, or I wish you had sex with me like this, or I wish it felt more like this. And when they say that, it comes straight back to you and your belief that you're not enough. And it activates that neural network and reaffirms it. Oh, this is true because my partner's telling me right now that I'm not enough. And it's just a loop like that. I'm telling myself I'm not enough, less confidence. My partner picks up on it, reflects it back at me, and it just continues on and on. That is on the less severe end. A lot of people go through this kind of experience. And it could be with other things too. Like, this doesn't just have to be sex. I know of many people that I've worked with, and even in my own life, I experienced this, where I tell myself I'm not enough in some way. Who knows what that might be? I'm thinking of another person where anytime they don't finish a project, they tell themselves they're not enough. And if their partner notices that they have not finished the product or the project that they were working on, then they fall back into this belief system. There it is again. They don't think I'm enough. They don't think I can do it. They don't think I'm good. So it could show up anywhere. But that's on the lower end of problems when it comes to this belief about not enough. It's still painful. I'm not saying that. It's still absolutely painful. But that person is still in a loving, wonderful relationship. And it's just one aspect where this belief causes problems for them. If you move further along the range of severity when it comes to this belief of I am not enough and the way it affects your life, then it is possible that you believe you are not enough. And so you choose partners who aggressively reaffirm that. People who are emotionally abusive, maybe even physically abusive sometimes. And they tell you in some form or fashion that you're not enough. And please hear me when I say that it is not your fault that you are in a relationship like that. I would never, ever say that to anyone who's in that type of relationship because I don't believe it. It is not your fault you are in that relationship. There are things that have happened in your history that have led you to a place where that is what is familiar. And even if it is truly awful, it still feels safer because our brains gravitate towards familiar. Familiar is safe. At the same time, I do want to make it clear that it is possible to get yourself out of relationships that are abusive in this way by shifting this old belief that you had around I am not enough and moving it towards what is actually true. That you, just like everyone else, are enough. And you deserve to be treated that way. The other possibility, so this is kind of the range, and it's an extreme range. I'm talking about extremes. People fall all along this range. But this is the range if you're in relationship. I believe I'm not enough. And so I'm either in a great relationship and this belief pops up at times and it's painful, or on the other end, I'm choosing people who are going to affirm this belief that I am not enough in really violent ways, in ways that are unacceptable and totally unrelational. That's if you're in relationship. For others, this belief of I am not enough will actually make it hard to get into relationship, where they're afraid to seek out relationship because they don't believe anyone will love them or like them even. Or it might be that a person who believes they're not enough keeps choosing partners who aren't ever actually going to turn into real partners. And instead, they're more like, and I don't mean anything bad about this. Everyone's at their own stage of what they're wanting in relationship, how they're going about relationship, A lot of the times we're miscommunicating to each other what we're desiring. But a person might be trying to get into a relationship, have this belief that they're not enough, and continue to pick partners who ghost, or partners who feel really close and connected for a few months, and then after a few months they are no longer interested. And that again just reaffirms the belief. When I believe I'm not enough, my system is naturally going to seek out people who confirm that belief and situations that confirm that belief, because it is familiar, because it is safe, because it's what I know, not because it's true. So that's really the issue with this belief system. That's kind of the pain points around, here's what happens if you are someone who learned, I am not enough, and it's something that still feels true inside of you. Now let's talk a little bit about undoing that belief system, because in the end, that's really all it is. It's a belief system. It is something that your brain has taken in as information and added to your internal narrative to the point that it feels like it's truth. In order to undo this, there are many things you can do. I'm going to get into one thing in this video, and then there are other videos you can check out where I talk about other things you can do for this particular belief system. But today we're just going to talk about more of like cognitive work that you could do. So mind, thought work you could do. And there's two beliefs that you could work on holding in your mind, integrating into your narrative, and beginning to feel the truth in them instead of this old belief. So these two beliefs are, one, the thing that you learned is not true. And two, the way you know it's not true is because you are enough just like everyone else. So let me kind of break both of these down. The first one, understanding that what you learned is not true. If you want, you can begin exploring this by just asking yourself, where did I learn that I am not enough? Did I learn it from comparing myself to my older siblings? Did I learn it from parents who believed they were not enough? They had lots of shame, and so they were constantly, often unintentionally, teaching that lesson to you? Did you learn it from a church that was very strict? Just kind of explore, where did I learn this belief that I am not enough? And then begin to recognize that that learning was actually a distortion. So the way that one of my good friends, Jules Shore, she's an amazing couples therapist. You can check her out. I've linked some of her information below because she's putting out great content. One of the ways that she described this was, it's like looking in a funhouse mirror, where picture the carnival mirror in front of you, and there's the distorted image that you're seeing. It's not actually truth, but it's what you're seeing. And recognize that this belief of I am not enough is just like that. It is not actually true about who you are. It's not accurate. It has more to say about the person or system that reflected the not enoughness back at you than it says anything about who you are as a person in reality. I'm going to say that again because I think it's so important. This belief of not enough actually has more to do with whoever reflected that belief at you than it does say about you. So that's one part of cognitively beginning to undo this message. The other side of this is beginning to come into awareness of a reality that every single one of us has infinite value and worth. And so the belief, the new belief, sounds something like, just like everyone else, I am enough. What this particular belief does is two things. One is it helps us move into a space where we are less judgmental of everyone, which is a great thing, where I am not judging myself as better or worse than any other person. Like inherent value is what I'm talking about right now. I am not better or worse than anybody else, ever. Not based on my ability, not based on my age, not based on my gender or color or size, any of that. I am not better or worse than anybody. My value is same as. And what this can do is free you up from trying to be special in some way. I have to be the best. I have to be good enough in order to get love, in order to get attention, in order to get a partner, whatever the case may be, whatever it is that you're hoping for and you believe you have to become better at in order to get a partner. This is a strange life paradox. The fact that we are all special and none of us are special. We are actually also completely ordinary. And both are good. Both of those are actually really good things to hold inside of you. I am special because I exist and I am unique, and that is true for everyone else. So actually, I am completely ordinary. It sounds confusing, but as you start to really viscerally understand this, it can change so much about your world, because then you don't have to strive and beat yourself up for not getting it perfectly. Instead, you can just be and trust that you, as you're showing up now, is enough. People will love you exactly as you are, and you deserve that love. You really do. And I'm not saying don't try and learn new things and feel more excited about life. Like, that's really what I'm hoping to help you learn in all of Practice Intimacy, is how to turn yourself on more, not just sexually, but in life. Sex is just one way that shows up really prominently. It's just like a big wow kind of turned on experience, but you can have a turned on experience throughout all of your life. And that happens by understanding that your value and worth is infinite, just like everyone else's. And that you do not need to be special in any way to be good enough. You can just be. And when you allow yourself to move into this place, you can stop trying to do the thing that will make you more special, and it will actually finally just come naturally. So let's think back to that very first example I gave. Person in a loving relationship, they have a wonderful connection with their partner, but they have this one belief that says, I am not enough sexually. If they move into a space where that belief no longer feels true, like truly in their body, it no longer feels true, and instead there's a new belief that says, I am enough, and my sexuality is enough for me, it turns me on, and I want to share it with my partner, then the interactions they're going to have from that space will be very different. They'll feel more confident, there will be a healthy amount of selfishness, which is always necessary in sexuality, to where they're showing up differently. I want to have sex with my partner because I am turned on. And the whole interaction will feel different. And most likely what will happen is your partner's going to change too. Most likely. Not always. Sometimes they've got their own thing where in the end, this wasn't actually about you, and they have their own stuff they need to work on around complaining or criticizing. Who knows? But most of the time, if you make the shift and you feel like you are enough now, then it'll change to where interactions flow better. Let's think about the more severe example. If you shifted to where you feel like you're enough, you're going to set boundaries differently. Boundaries are the way that we teach others how to treat us, and we show ourselves the respect that we deserve. And if you begin to set more boundaries because you know that you're enough and that it is unacceptable for another person to say or do the things that they've been doing, then either that person will change, they will move towards you in health, or you will feel strong enough to leave. You won't even want to be with them anymore. Your growth will affect your relationships. We can't ever expect the other person to change. All we have control over is ourselves. And if you work on this belief of enoughness, knowing that you are enough right now as you are, not changing anything, then your love life, your sex life, your relationships, your entire life will improve. I hope this was helpful. If you're wanting to dig a little bit more into working on this feeling of enough, wanting to feel as though you are enough, then here's a meditation that you can check out where I'll guide you through a practice that can help you explore this a little bit more. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, share this with your friends, and I will see you next time with more information about love and sex. See you then.